Okay. So the vote seems to have been to do methodology of psak things, but
wait.
okay, it's fine. Anyways, so
what was it?
To do psak things.
Oh yes,
to do psak things. Now, the problem we have here, which is a good problem to have, is that Zev came last year and I did psak.
Was I the only person that voted?
No, you were not.
I voted.
There was a vote to do psak things. I mean, we'll see. If we change it, we can always change it. So this was a stand-up. Doesn't matter. So we'll start. What we'll do is we'll start with this. Is that as I mentioned to a few guys. So when I originally started thinking seriously about psak, I did it first over the course of 2 years when I was in the kollel in Gush. I gave a lunch here for whoever came, and we just sort of explored psak. So the first year I did it, I did a lot of the things I did last year, which was sort of analyzing psak from the vantage point of poskim. Right? What factors do poskim bring to bear on halachic decisions, from their independent analysis of texts, to customs of various sorts, to precedent, broadly understood, plus they then have to apply that to mitzios, right, to the reality, and how you determine reality, not just technically, but halachically, what is legitimate, from easy questions to very hard questions, like halacha deals with rove, but has no language for statistical rove, based on medical journals, which is a totally different sort of just methodology, epistemic methodology. Does that factor into psak? Things like that. And things like, is Tanakh still an open source for psak, right? Meaning not mediated through Chazal. So Zev says no, and of course the best way to do this is if you look in the Stei Chemed or the Yad Malachi, they're both obviously it's not, and therefore I don't understand these 50 poskim, and they give you a nice list of examples where poskim have unmediated psakim based out of Tanakh, not mediated by Chazal.
This is where my Karaite
not mediated by Chazal.
They're not being like us.
No, they're actually in coming up with the halachos. Poskim as mainstream as the Rambam or the Netziv and people like that. Is Kabbalah considered a canonical source? Not things like that. We dealt with some of these last year, not all of them. We can come back to some of these issues, especially those we didn't deal with last year.
Why is everybody so far away?
I don't know. Whatever.
It's so not tight over here.
Whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyways, that was what I did year 1. And then year 2, I think this idea first came from Ari Lam, though I'm not sure. Rabbi Dr. Ari Lam now. He wasn't then. I think that Ari once mentioned to me that as hard as it was to develop a year's worth of material on sort of systematizing what I think psak is, it is even harder to figure out what is the role of the non-posek in the halachic system. Right? Those questions are actually really hard, right? Because that's right. At least looking at it from the top down, at least you have halachic texts to work with that are easy, right? Poskim talk about what they do, but there are a lot of halachic process questions that are the bottom up, like why do I have to listen to psak in the first place? Right? What gives any Rav authority over me? Why is asking a shaila binding? Is it binding? Right? When can I paskin for myself? And that has many different levels, right? One question there is, when do I know enough to paskin for myself? That's question 1. I'm sure you do. But sometimes we ask, when do you know enough to paskin for yourself? Another question is, even if you know enough, is bias a problem? Right? Is bias a problem? A third question is, even if bias isn't a problem, and even if you know enough, what are there external factors that might stop you from paskining, like your Rebbe is present, right? That's clearly a halachic concern. You're not allowed to paskin with Bnei Rabbah. How do you deal with external things, and what does that even mean? That I'm qualified to paskin, but right now I can't paskin despite that, right? But that's a real category, in Gemara. This is not right. Things like that. So year 2, as I focused on that. So I'm gonna. Because Zev hasn't heard any of that stuff, we'll start with that, but we can mix and match and we can decide through the year, we can decide we're going to do something totally different. But for today, now I haven't actually picked up the source sheet in 7 years, something like that. So it's interesting to see what exactly did I think then. I mean, I remember doing this, but what exactly did I think there? So what I had done to start it off was to give an idea, to sort of get the conversation going, is what do I want a posek to do? Right? Like, what is it that I even want a posek to do? What is it I think that a posek does? Right? As a non-posek.
Like mediates between the halacha and the layman.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Like,
It's sort of like how the
applies the principles.
yeah.
What does that
He
mean?
applies the halacha. The halacha gives these
Like,
vague categories that don't.
he brings the halacha.
If I go to a posek, what, and he gives me an answer, how do I take that?
You take that.
What is it to me?
It is a specific.
Okay. Let's go model by model, right? Definitely one way that people understand this is that the role of a posek is to give you an answer, right? Now, here for the moment, I am evading the question of whether that's because there is only one answer in Shamayim and he's telling you what it is, right? Or there are multiple answers because of Elu ve'elu, and by asking a Shaila, you have now bound yourself, right? That is an interesting question which we will have to get to, right? And we've talked about, right? But one way of understanding the role of a posek and what I am doing by entering into a posek nishal relationship is that the posek is a machriya. Right? Again, whether you think, right, he is a decider.
Oh, okay.
Right? Whether that means that he is telling me the one and only truth and therefore I have to follow it, or he's giving me my truth, right? Which is again how the Ritva understands it, right? Meaning, it's not that there's one truth, there are multiple truths, but by entering into the process of psak, yes.
But here's my question with that. I could go to you, get a psak, and I go to Ginzburg, get a different psak. Which one binds?
The first one.
Really?
Yes.
So when I went to you and you told me that I could be Pinios on Pesach because of my situation, and then I went to Rabbi Chait and
No, he's here already with us.
That's true.
Well, okay, so it gets a little bit complicated, right? It depends on whether I'm right. Am I issuing an opinion? Am I issuing psak? In that case, I was not issuing psak.
It was an opinion.
I was telling you based on Lumdos why I thought that would be true in your unique circumstance, but I was not posking because you didn't want me to posk. I think I even asked you, do you want me to posk or do you want my opinion? Right? And I told you.
I think we were talking in theory. It was more.
What? See, this is a very important question, and the answer, according to most, the simplest answer to that,
You learn.
no, is that you asked, right? Is that you asked me.
Yeah, but I could ask Zev.
Correct. And if you did,
Then he could halachically be. I could be.
so this would be
Come on,
interesting.
think about how many times. Never mind.
Meaning the simplest answer. Okay, it's a machlokas. This I think we did deal with last year, right, Zev? We did with this last year, right? But basically, there are three Rishonim, right? One is that it's just kavod harav, right? Once you've asked, right, it's kavod harav. Or it's a neder, which is a possibility the Ravid is understood by the Meiri, right? Or, as the Ritva understands it, is no. By asking a Shaila, you have actually granted the posek the ability to change the metaphysical reality of Torah for you. That's actually what the Ritva says it, which is as crazy.
Wow.
Yes, that is actually what the Ritva says. Like, no, right? And I think I mentioned this last year, that Israeli thinks, and others, think that only works the Chumrah, right? But Rav Henkin notes that it's explicit in the Ritva that that's not true. It's even the Kula. That he binds you to a Kula, right? He binds you to a Makel reality, right? Which is wild. But that is actually what the Ritva says, right?
What metaphysical reality?
This one.
So developing this Ritva actually requires you to understand three different Ritvas.
Yeah.
But
We don't do this.
yes, we
Not
can.
today.
Yes, we can. But Bikitsur, the Ritva has an expansive view of Elu Ve'elu Divrei Chaim and Ereven.
Right.
Right?
To in Bishamayim.
Correct. Plus, in the sugya of binding psak, the Ritva argues that there's metaphysical reality.
Sure.
And the third thing is that in Shabbos, the Ritva, unique amongst the Rishonim, thinks that Lo Tasur applies to your Rav, and not just to the Sanhedrin Hagadol Yoshev Yerushalayim. Right, but to your Rav. Right, those are, I think, the three Ritvas that are key to understanding the Ritva's very, very radical metaphysical idea of psak.
Wow.
Totally and completely wild, and I've never seen anyone, by the way, make that connection of all three. Right, I've seen people make connections of two. Right, but that third one is the Makeh Padish of the Ritva, is that in Shabbos Koflamed he says that Lo Tasur applies to Mardasra. Right, and that's why. Right, that's why.
Is different than.
But Mardasra is presumably the same authority as your Rebbe. Right, hence. Right, in the context of why it's the Ritva on why it is that in the place of Rabbi Yossi or Aglili they could eat oaf b'chalav, right? Meaning it's l'kula, right? It's clear he's saying this that Lo Tasur, right, allows you to rely on kulot. Okay,
Even when there's a Beis Hagadol, or
presumably not if the Beis Hagadol has weighed in, right? They will override it. They are Lo Tasur in a more intense sense. But again, however you understand this, one way of viewing a posek is right? Machriya. And there are certain poskim who view their job, I think, very much this way. And I'm going to be unfair, because what I'm going to do now is present models. Okay, it's not like if I say a posek presents this model, he always presents this model, but I want to give you an idea of what this means. So, for an example, if you look at this, the first tube I gave you is from the Shevet HaLevi. Every so often the Shevet HaLevi, who's Shevet HaLevi? Shevet HaLevi is Rav Vosner, right? Shmuel HaLevi. Rav Vosner, he was the posek of Bnei Brak. Okay, so he is very much in the Haredi world where there is an idea very much of Das Torah. Now, he does, most of his tshuvot are very long and very detailed and very minumak, right? I'm not denying that for a moment. But I took a random tshuva from him, where he has certain tshuvot where, if you looked at it, if you think that the job of a posek is to explain anything to you, right, make you understand Torah, rather than just, you ask a question, give you the answer, we're done, let's move on, right? You would not explain what he calls tshuva k'tzarot al she'elot mechavurei ba'alei tshuva, right? He has a tshuva, which is a collection of short answers, right? I would just say that if you view the role of a posek as, you ask me a question, I give you an answer, I don't owe you anything else, I don't know an explanation, I don't know anything, I'm just your machriya, I make the decision for you, right? Then what's about to follow sort of makes sense, which is, look at this example. Ma'u geder tinok shenishba bizmanenu, right? This isn't like a question you would think deserves more than 2 lines and 1 word, right? Which is, what is the status of tinok shenishba? Meaning, are non-religious Jews mizidin, right? Willful sinners or not, right? Big question, right? Like, a lot of ramifications.
That's his answer? It's a 3-line answer?
Like I said, right? Tino, shenolad, mehomrim, rumrim, vayanos, gamur, shalokim, level mitzvot, ayin yeredeh, kuf nutet, siv gimel, v'yeredes, and shimnim siv hey, v'chem shgalo b'sviva shal goyim, v'sviva shal porke ol Torah, v'yedez lo shama, v'gimel, v'dera, mitzvot, v'emunata.
Wow.
Right?
Okay, but that doesn't address like any modern day stuff. That's just like the definition.
What could you translate, please?
Right? Basically, someone who, right, who is a Geder Tinok Shenishba nowadays, anyone who was born from people who are not from, or grew up around non-Jews, or grew up around people who don't keep the Torah, or never heard about the Torah. Right? Like, really, really, really heavy things that you just like, who is in this very important category?
Everyone.
Well, here's your whole list. But the point is that you sort of get the feeling about this, right? Like, he views, at least in this tshuva, again, not in every tshuva, but in this one, he's acting out the role of, I make this, you ask me a question, I give you an answer, I owe you nothing but an answer. And you are going to listen to me, right? Hence, it doesn't matter how big the question, right? Sometimes you get this feeling with Chaim Kanievsky, right? 30-line question, Cain, right? No. Cain, no. This is not against Chaim Kanievsky. This is against the annoying nudnikim who ask him those shilas and ask for 1-word answers, right? His actual books are very menumak, right? But his shilas are not.
Well, we're going off this notion that we're assuming right now that the poseks are just people who get answers.
No. I'm giving you models, right? A model of a posek is a posek who gives you an answer. He makes the decision. He doesn't owe you anything, right? The act of asking a shaila is entering into a relationship in which you get an answer but no explanation. They owe you nothing. You're not part of this process, right? Right? The next one. Also, big question. Are you allowed to use physical force to stop someone from violating a sin? Again, right? If you ask me, I would require an explanation, right? Look at the entirety of his answer is Bivadai mutar l'shtamesh b'koach la'afrish me'isur. Yes, right? For sure. And then he gives you a list of sources, right? Ayin Mishnah Berurah, Ayin Nesivos HaMishpat, right? Blah, 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 right? 4 lines, of which 80% of sources, and you just look at the last line. Trust me, the Achronim talk about this a lot, right? Like, yeah, it's with her, right? Like, in this posek, he is acting out, if nothing else. Now, the role of the
sources. That's
fine, right? But again, this is not, I'm not making a claim, I want to be clear, I'm not making a claim about Rav Vosner.
Yeah.
I'm making a claim that there are times in which poskim do this. Now, why would a posek do that?
He doesn't
right?
have time to answer anything. So
sometimes he has no time, or you're a nudnik. That's, I think, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, why that happens, right? Because people bug him at, with questions. He's not really writing a tshuva sefer. They, bother him, and then he just sort of answer is one word and they write it down, right? Why else might they do it? Right? What does it show about how the posek views the process of psak? So one possibility is they view themselves, right? They think that the role of posek is to give you an answer, and the role of shoel is to do, right? That's one possibility, right? But that's not always true. Why else? Why might a posek do that?
Oh, because they don't want to. If they give too much explanation, then you'll think you understand the sugya.
Good. So one way is to protect. Well, in a certain sense, to protect you from making a mistake, right? So now, let me give you an idea. Now, let me give you. Turn to the next page, right? This is an example, right? The first one was an example where that Haredi sensibility, let's say, right? I read it and it rubs me the wrong way a bit, right? Like Tinok Shenishba, you're going to give me an answer in like 2 lines, right? That bothers me. But I want to show you, and this is what I want you. I want to make you a little bit uncomfortable about this. Okay? I don't think, and again, I want to make this clear. This is a model. Sometimes that model of psak is actually a very good thing, right? Sometimes it feels weird, right? Like, what is the status of non-religious Jews? I want more than 2 lines. But here's an article from the Haredi world, which fundamentally is based on the exact same assumption. Right? Except, in this case, I can just stand back in awe, right, of this model because it works in a way that, let's say, a more modern Orthodox way of explaining an answer would not work. So, Ma'amar Yerat Tehorah is a fascinating piece. It is, page 2, like second side, Ma'amar Yerat Tehorah is about a 30 or so page kuntras, which was written as a halachic guide from Jews who are dealing with OCD, and specifically scrupulosity. Right? Scrupulosity is, do you know what scrupulosity is? Scrupulosity is OCD that manifests itself in religious practice. Right? Now, scrupulosity is yes, it is now it is a big problem.
In OCD, a specification towards religious practice.
You think it's me?
Now, scrupulosity is a big problem. It's a really big problem. Now,
can you find it?
It's exactly what I just said. It's OCD that manifests itself in religion.
So, for example, what?
Like being really OCD about
So let's take a step back here for a moment. Right? There is an excellent book, which, if you have the time, you should read. It's called Sanity and Sanctity. It's written by 2 psychologists, maybe one or the other, whatever. What? Yes. Who function in the Haredi world, in Nesharim. And they use it as a test case for the importance of understanding cultural context in diagnosing psychological problems. And their example is as follows, right? They say, imagine the following 2 people, okay? Person 1, as soon as he comes in, right? As soon as he comes in this door, he has a very specific washing ritual. He is paranoid about germs, so he goes and he washes his hands for exactly 60 seconds in warm water with soap, and he has a procedure. And then when he finishes, he takes his shoes. Right, he takes his shoes off and he rinses them with boiling water from the kettle and puts it in, right, and then he washes the doorknobs with disinfectant wipes, and this is what he does every time he walks in the door, right? This is textbook OCD paranoia. Yes? Okay, person 1. Person 2, right, wakes up, and the first thing they do in the morning is they take a cup that holds at least 4 ounces, and they wash their hands exactly 3 times on each hand in alternating right, left, and then they repeat and then they dry, and then they say a set number of words, the same ones every day, and then they dry their hands, right, and then they put on their shoes, the right one before their left shoe, right.
So what about the people that just go to like the diner?
So they said,
it just sounds like a religious.
Yes, it's a religious Jew. They said that's his point. The point is, why is one of those people OCD and one of them is not? Right?
You made it sound like the other one was more.
No, this is their point. The reason is because OCD is a compulsion that diverges from the social world in which you find yourself, meaning is unhealthy by the standards you yourself live in.
Why
right?
Just to draw the distinction at one's instinct, one's like...
No, but this is important for scrupulosity, right? Because how do you tell, right? What's a classic tick for scrupulosity, right? This is a good way of telling it. If someone is so worried about kavana that they repeat brachot, like Havdalah, people will do this. They'll repeat the brachot over and over again until they're convinced they have kavana. How do you know that that's scrupulosity and not shmiras hamitzvos? Because the rules of Torah tell you that's not what you're supposed to do, right? Meaning, it's a tick right? That's an obsessive compulsive tic. It's not kiyum hamitzvos because you're not supposed to do that, right?
If you have
right?
a stutter, are you supposed to repeat the bracha?
No, right? You don't repeat the bracha, right? That's psychologically how they try to diagnose it, right? Scrupulosity is when, by your own standards, right, the system you yourself live in, right, you're not keeping the religious system, because then it's not, right? Having a belief system and keeping it is not OCD, right? OCD is an unhealthy, right, inconsistent, right, intellect, etc. Okay, now, here's the problem. How do you deal with scrupulosity? So one of the suggestions of psychologists is, one of the ways of dealing with scrupulosity is, or OCD in general, is behavioral therapy. How do you do that? You just don't do it, right? What's the problem?
It's
right?
compulsion.
So the problem is that often obsessive compulsive activities are, right? The reason you do them is because you have a whole, philosophical rationale for them, right? So how do you solve it? What do you need to force the person to do? Stop thinking about it, right? Just break it, right? Now, let's think about with that in mind, think about how this posek, right? And this is a combination of Haredi poskim that put this together, right? Stipler and others, right? Or Yashiv, right? Major poskim, how they use the Haredi sensibility of psak in a way that is actually very effective to solve, right, or attempt to solve the problem. So this is what he says. Yadanu ma'od harbein mine nervin. Right? We know about your nerves, right? That's how they say it in Yiddish. Right? I don't want to get into it. Let me not get into it. Fine. Right?
Like he doesn't want to get into
I don't want to get into every OCD compulsion you have. I know you have. Okay. We understand these complexities. Right? You're very stubborn about them and you won't listen to anybody. Right? The nature of these is that you think you know better than anybody, even the Gedolim. Now listen to how they are using Haredi sensibility, right, to actually help cure this person, right, these people. Right? You think you're the smartest people better than Gedolim. You're more Yoreh Shamayim than the Gedolim. So you don't listen to the Gedolim. Afra lepumayu. Right? Which means, right, put dust in your mouth. Right? God forbid. Right? You're greater than the Gedolim. Except we know that people like you, right, you get so sunk in this, right, that water comes to your neck, right, to your mouth. Right? I mean, you're drowning, right? It's poetic here, but and at that point you go for help, and it's impossible to get out of it. So here's what we're telling you based on the pasuk, right? You have to listen to the pasuk, right? Even if they tell you right is left and left is right, and for sure if we're telling you the right thing, right is right, small is small. That's by an original triple exclamation point. Right? This is your biblical chiyuv because of etc. And therefore he says skip down. He says but if you don't do this, right? And if you go against this, you're going against Chazal, you're a koifer, a shegez, right? The whole thing. And therefore they go on to say that if someone can't deal with scrupulosity and he repeats davening, what's their advice? Don't daven. Nikudav sof sipur. Do not daven until you are cured because davening is feeding into your OCD. Right? Right? This is their psak. Now, but I want you to just notice, right? Both Reb Bosner and Mamar Yerot Torah are using the same model. Right? But it actually takes on a very different valence. Right? In one place, acting that the role of posek is to give you a final answer feels like they're not, right, giving you the answers. In another place, that's actually exactly what the person needed, right? If you start giving explanations, right, inevitably they start saying, well, in this case it doesn't apply, and they start, right, all this lumdus, and then they don't cure themselves, right? So my point is that the role of posek kemachriya, right, this is not always good or always bad. This is just a reality that sometimes that's how you enter into a psak relationship. And just to make this point, I give you now a Haredi tshuva that I don't love, a Haredi tshuva that I think actually works very well. Now I give you a piece by the Rav, in which the Rav does the same thing, right? And this is something that we've seen before. The Rav's tshuva on women's learning, right? Someone asked him about women's learning, right? I just want to show you. If you look at the first letter, right? He just to show you that he's doing this. He says, "I acknowledge receipt of your letter. In my answer to your previous inquiry concerning the permissibility and instruction of girls in Talmud, I stressed that unless I am assured in advance by the school administration that my recommendations will be followed, I would not take the trouble to investigate the matter. Since such an official assurance has been withheld, your letter did not contain any such commitment, I must decline to consider the controversial problem. The reason for my reluctance to engage in this controversial issue is the unique stand taken by many of the Jews in matters of law and tradition. We have reached a stage at which party lines and political ideologies influence our halachic thinking to the extent that people cannot rise above partisan issues to the level of halachic objectivity. Some are in perennial quest for liberalization of the law and subordination to the majority opinion of the political legislative body, while others would like to see the halacha fossilized and completely shut out of life. I'm not inclined to give any of these factions an opportunity for nonsensical debates." Right? But basically the Rav said, listen, you tell me you listen, I'm going to answer. You're not telling me you're listening to me no matter what, I'm not getting involved. And then in his answer, right, skip to the last letter here. He says, "Please accept my apologies for not answering your letter sooner. The delay was due to my overcrowded schedule. As to your question with regards to the curriculum in a coeducational school, I expressed my opinion long ago that it would be very regrettable oversight on our part if we were to arrange separate Hebrew courses for girls. Not only is the teaching of Torah Shabbat Peh to girls permissible, but is nowadays an absolute imperative. The policy of discrimination between the sexes as to the subject matter and method of instruction, which is still advocated by certain groups within our Orthodox community, has contributed greatly to the deterioration and downfall of traditional Judaism. Boys and girls alike should be introduced to the inner halls of Torah Shabbat Peh. I hope to prepare in the near future a halachic brief on the same problem, which will exhaust the various aspects of the same. In the meantime, I heartily endorse a uniform program for the entire student body." Now, this is the Rav writing, and it is hard to miss the fact that he is literally doing exactly what Rav Wosner is doing, which is, I will only answer this question if you say you're going to listen to me no matter what. And then what does he do in his final letter, in his psak, essentially? Here's my answer, and I refuse to explain myself. Maybe later I will. He never did. Right? Why does he do it? Did you notice why? He says it in the first answer.
He doesn't want people to argue.
To protect, or let me put it differently, to protect the shoel. Right? One benefit of the Das Torah, I make the decision, you ask, I answer model, is that it protects the shoel. Because what happens now if someone challenges the shoel? How could you rely on that psak? What's the answer? My rabbi said so. Why did your rabbi said so? The answer is, I don't know, call him. Right? So model one of Posek Laymen is not right. This is not objectively good or bad. Right? Sometimes it feels like they're leaving you out of the halachic process. But sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes that is what's necessary politically, right? It shields the shoel from criticism and puts the onus on the posek, right? This is one model that exists.
Here in Yeshiva, you make it sound like it's a bad thing.
I'm not saying good, bad. I'm saying it's a model that exists.
Which has benefits and downsides. Don't trust anybody.
Model 2. Okay, model 2. The role of a posek, the role of posek is to offer options to other poskim. That's another model that exists. Is that poskim, great poskim, view themselves as suggesting lumdish options for other poskim to take or leave at their whim. Not non-poskim, right? But poskim offer opinions, but only for qualified people to enter into conversation, right? This is how Moshe Feinstein viewed himself, often. Say always, but if you look at his Hakadama, number 2, this is what he says. He says, "Al zeh samachti la'orot v'gam la'ashem ashenir l'fanit dati acher sheberarti l'alcha berov hamel la'orot zim le'dat dati." I've written this down for those who want to know my opinion. B'frat shekatavti tamim v'kol ma shenivarer ba'ofen zeh. What?
Anias, isn't Anias like
right? The Nia Dati, right, is in my humble opinion. Right? And I explained to you my reasons. I'm just suggesting something, and you can look into my sources. Don't trust me. Look at my arguments. You like it? Great. You don't like it? Don't listen to me. I'm not a posek, right? I'm not poskening for you. I'm just telling you my opinion. And that's why I published. I'm just clarifying my opinion. Next line. So any posek and Talmud Chacham wants to pick it up. So any posek can pick it up. Right? ... Right? Hence, what is Ramosha suggesting? Sometimes what's the role of posek?
Further process.
Is to offer only an opinion, not make a final decision, but the doors are only open, right? The halls of Psak are open to the initiated, right? I explain myself so that the people who are on my level can judge my opinion. I'm not trying to push my opinion on anybody, but the only people who have the right to make decisions are other qualified poskim. Now, an extreme example, this is the Ramah, okay? The Ramah tells you in no uncertain terms that this is exactly what he did. The Ramah, I'll give you background, this is in the Hakdamah Torah Chatas. The Ramah was writes the following. He says often in the Ramah, right, like actually the book that we referred to, right, that goes to the Ramah Shulchan Aruch, he writes that blah 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 is asur except l'kavod Shabbos, okay, or something like that, right? He says, well, what does that mean? What does it mean? It's asur. Mitzvah, whatever, right? What does that mean? What is the halachic category there?
It's not actually us.
Yes, exactly. He says it's an invented category. What I mean by that is that it's mutter, but I can't explain that to Balabatim. Right? What I mean is the following. It's really mutter. There are people who say it's asur. The minhag is to be machmir, even though it's against, right? It's not really how we paskin. But if there's any tzorech whatsoever, so I make it. Elamai, if I tell a balabas that, what are they going to say to me? So what will they say to me? Oh, so it's mutter. Right? And I'll say, no, I mean, it is mutter, but we'd rather you be machmir because the arshito, and it's better to be machmir. But if I try to explain that to Balabatim, they're just not going to get it. So what do? I make up categories that sort of like aren't real, but they're easy enough to tell Balabatim. Right?
So like by the fish above, all the fish above.
Now, you only write what I just said in a sefer if you think the only person reading your book is another posek, right? You don't write, I am tricking Balabatim, if you expect the non-initiated to ever pick up your book, right? Well, now I'm going to read it to you, right? He says, right? I have to explain something so that you don't doubt my abilities as a posek. Right? I have all these random gulas, right? Thrown out, right? Kavod Shabbos, you're poor, I don't know, right? What I mean is it's mutter. I'll leave it to Hilchasa. But they're like achronim or machmir. So when necessary, I said, keep the ikra halacha. This is what poskim do. Right? The cause of Mari means the Shuvosah, the Ani Kol Imot Zachol, Asher Barishav, Shavit. Mikol Makom, Haminhag Lomar Lahem. The minhag is to say to them, right, to the Balabatim, Hatam Zeh Mipnei Manyo, to tell him it's because he's poor. V'zeh Mipnei Kavod Shabbos, or because of Kavod Shabbos. Kidei Shlo Yitzbehu, so they won't be astonished. Shelifamim Ozer, Lefamim Matir. Because sometimes we say it's mutter, sometimes we say it's asur. Like, these are made-up categories, right, for the uninitiated, right? But between you and me as poskim, right, that's not what's going on. Right? In no uncertain terms, it is clear that how does the Ramah view the role of himself as a posek? Is to provide guidance for poskim. Right? Is to provide guidance for poskim. Right? But, right, to poskim, I initiate you into my thought process. And the average balabas, I sort of make up things that make you feel like I'm explaining myself, right? But you are not part of this process, and therefore, right, you won't understand what I'm talking about. Right? So this is model 2, right? Model 1 is posek makes decision. Model 2 is posek explains himself, initiates into process, but only to the already initiated. But the hamonam,
because they don't want to commit to their opinion.
They don't want to commit. They don't think that Balabatim are worthy of being part of the halachic process. They don't think they can handle a halachic process. Whatever. Model 2. Okay?
Somebody tells me you don't agree with that.
No, okay, first of all, again, these are models. Because in the time of the Ramah, let's be honest, that most of the laity was not educated. Right? Right? These are models. I'm not taking a side. Right? To an educated laity, this is hard to hear. To an uneducated laity, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay? Ari Lamb once told me from his grandfather, from Ari Lamb, I'm sure I mentioned this to you, right? That someone once came and asked for my lamb. It was like an elderly woman, and said, "Rabbi, I dropped my dairy spoon in my fleishik sink. What do I do?" So he told her, whatever he told her, take the spoon, dip it in dirt 10 times, and whatever, right? And then you can use it again. And Ari was there, and he said, "What are you talking about? There is nothing you have to do, right? You can use your meat spoon for your cereal. It will do nothing to it. Just rinse it off, and you're done, right? Mazeh." And Ari Lamb said, "Look, I know this woman for 50 years. If I tell her to do nothing, she will say, 'I don't believe you,' and will throw out the spoon. Right? If I tell her to do something, anything, right, she will do it and keep the spoon. Because she's not educated, right? She's very frum, right? And she's just not going to be able to take a kula, right? It's the right answer, but she just can't take it, right? Sometimes, especially with an uneducated lady.
Is it okay to lie to...
And so again, his svara was, my job is to give her the right answer. And whatever I need to say for her to do the right thing, I will say, even if it's not technically right.
Does that apply to the masses, or you can only do that on a case-by-case basis?
Again, that's why I'm saying these are models, right? I want to make it clear, I'm presenting models, right? None of these are work all the time, right? But and we will have to justify each model, but this is definitely a model that exists. Now, a third model, which I think speaks to maybe a more modern sensibility and a reality of an educated laity, is that what Ramosha or the Ramah thinks they're doing for poskim, sometimes at least poskim do for the Hamonah. So this is a very strange tshuva by the Torah Lishma, which to begin with is a weird tshuva. The whole tshuva sefer is weird because it is probably written by the Ben Ish Chai under a pseudonym, claiming that he found this tshuva sefer written by somebody else. So unclear what is going on in the entire book, but it's probably Ben Ish Chai under a pseudonym. He was asked this very bizarre tshuva, right? Someone asked him, She'ilah, Matzinu be'inyan ha'sheker shu chamur ma'od, v'hu me'arba kito, blah, 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 right? Lying is really bad, but the Gemara has all these times you are allowed to lie for shalom, for this, for that, blah, blah, blah. Can you please tell me when I'm supposed to lie, when I'm not supposed to lie, etc.? Okay? That's the question. Look at the answer. Tshuva. Hamsot shel ofanim sheish b'hem heter lo aseh lachem midati b'dar hazeh. V'rak avi lachem ofanim hanizkarim b'talmud v'atem talmudu mehem v'zeh achali v'ezer el tzuri v'goali. He said, I'm not going to give you a final answer. And this is a very long tshuva. I gave you literally 5 lines of it. Right? He said, I'm going to list for you every single example in all of Shas, all of Rishonim, and all of Acharonim where they weigh in on this, and then that should help you. And now, good luck. Right? It's this endless tshuva. Endless. Right? Literally every time any posek that he knows of, and he's encyclopedic, right, talked about lying and when it's mutter, now I trust you to make your own decision. Right? That's model 3, right? Is a posek who views his job as providing information and allowing the laity
to make his
right
decision.
to make a decision. Right? They provide the Minchas Chinuch Act, right? Mare makom anila. I'll give you makaros and you make your own decision. Right now, admittedly, sometimes when people ask me shilas, especially friends of mine who are rabbis, right, where it's a bit cheating, right? There's back more to the Ramosha thing, right? That's what I do. Right? I don't paskin. I say, look, here's the Rishon, here's the Acharon, this is my opinion, but you have smicha too, do what you want, right?
I'll get smicha.
This is thank you. That's model, but that's another model. Okay? Now let me give you a fourth model. Another model of psak would be the following. A posek can say, look, I will tell you the halacha theoretically, but I won't tell you what the mitzius is. And therefore, lemaisa, you're the posek. But you're not making the halachic decision, but you are making the decision, right? What am I talking about? So the Gemara says, look at the following, right? This is from the Gemara, it's not me. Right? On Yom Kippur, if you need to eat, so if a doctor says the sick person needs to eat, he eats. Amar biyanai, chole omer tzarich, v'rofei omer ino tzarich. And the sick person says, I need to eat, and the doctor said, you don't? What's the halacha? Shomin lachole. Listen to the sick person against the doctor. Why? My taima, leiv yodeh moret nafsho. Because the soul knows its own pain. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Mao de tema rofei kim leitfe. You might say, no, the doctor knows better. Come on, it's not true. Now, in this model, again, this is a model. I'm not saying every time, but this presents a possible model. Or what is the job of the posek in this case? Think about it, right? According to this Gemara, what is the job of the posek when someone asks you, should I eat in Yom Kippur?
You need to.
The answer is, if you think there's sakana, do it. And if the person says, well, how do I know if there's sakana? What does the Gemara tell you?
You'll know.
You'll know. Not the rabbi, right? This is model 4, right? Sometimes the role of the rabbi is to say, look, this is the theoretical halacha, but I can't tell you the halacha l'maisa because you have to understand the mitzios. Right. Now that's a very local one, but many poskim, right, think that this is how you should answer medical shilas, which is, here's the theoretical, right? Now go to the doctor that you trust, right? And if they tell you X, Y, and Z, that counts as pikuach nefesh. This is what you're allowed to do. If they tell you A, B, C, then it's not, and this is what you're supposed to do. But I'm not going to choose the doctor for you. I'm not going to tell, right? I'm going to tell you if X, then Y. But whether X is the case is up to you to figure out, right? Now this comes up. Other poskim, by the way, don't. Rai Willig, for example, doesn't do this. When Rai Willig gets a medical shaila, he thinks his job is to ask 3 doctors, get a consensus opinion, and then make a decision mitchili v'atsof. Right? That's a different model. The posek thinks his job is to be mavar the halacha, like the theoretical halacha, and the mitzios. But a perfectly plausible model is to say, no, the posek's job is to explain the theoretical halacha, but at least when it comes to mitzios questions, to allow the shoel to plug it in, right? And that requires a level of trust in the balabas that they will understand how to apply it. Okay? That's model 4. Model 5, right, is the posek as persuader, right? Not poskening, but as, right, persuading, right? And this is something we did last year, right? This is how I take, like, the Chachmas Adam on his critique of drinking coffee with non-Jews, right? Remember this? If you guys remember this, right? He says coffee isn't usher from Sheikh Ragam. That's his psak, right? But if you look 3 lines at the bottom, but he says, right? How bad is it nowadays that, right, people go to these coffee houses, coffee, im chalav to right? They drink this coffee, which is horrible, with milk, blah, 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 right? Milvad shal chas v'shalom bo lidei znuz, and it leads to znuz, kayadua, okay? Right, as is well known. Al kain kol asher reach Torah yarchik mizeh. And therefore I suggest that anyone who fears God shouldn't go into coffee houses. Again, what is he doing in this, right? How is he acting? He's not passing halacha. He's saying the halacha is mutter, but my advice is don't do it. Right? So here's 5 models. Again, and I'm setting them as models, so every posek will use different ones. Sometimes posek acts as a machriya, which either that's because they think balabatim don't have a right to be part of the process, right? Or because they think that they need to protect the shoel, right? Or the shoel will just mess things up if they know too much information. Sometimes poskim are presenting their opinion, but only for other poskim to weigh in, right? They're not making a final decision, but they think only the initiated have a say. Sometimes poskim think, no, even the balabatim have a say in the lumdus. Sometimes they say, look, poskim have no, right, decide halacha, theoretically. But the lamaisa, right, leave it up to the individual, to the experts, it's not my job. Some poskim act not as poskim, right? They get a shaila and they respond by saying, look, it's mutter, it's usher, but here's what I suggest, take it or leave it, right? And those are 5 models. Now we'll have to stop here. The rest I think you can read yourself. This is an article by Rabbi Dr. Judah Goldberg, not PhD, but MD, Dr. Judah Goldberg, and Shana Goldberg, who's a Yoetzet Halacha. They co-wrote this article. I'll just tell you what it is. You can read it afterwards. Basically, there's a theory in medicine called patient-centered medicine, where it moves away. The old model of medicine used to be what was known as paternalism, right? That the doctor knows best, right, and that's it, right? They make the decision, they don't explain themselves, and that's the best thing for the patient. New medical practice is focused on patient-centered, which is the doctor advises, explains, but at the end of the day, patients are healthier when they understand what's going on and they make decisions, right? That the doctor explains, but the patient makes the final decision because that brings buy-in, right, to the system. And it's better and it respects their autonomy, right? There's an ideological and a practical component to this. right? What they did was they wrote an article arguing that, at least in the modern world where we're dealing with an educated laity that respects autonomy and wants autonomy, right? Viewing psak from the vantage point of what they call, right, like something like shoel balabat, right, balabait-centered halachic consultation, right, is the way to go. Both practically, because you get more buy-in, right? If, again, especially amongst an educated laity, if you explain your process and they're not always going to agree. By being transparent, you might get some people who say, I don't agree, but you might get them to agree. And the second is an ideological one, is that if you think that in an ideal world it's better to have an educated laity where the halachic process isn't just posek, paskening by fiat, but is everyone, to the extent they're capable, being part of the process, then you're going to look towards the models that respect the autonomy and intellectual capabilities of the shoalim. So I'll leave you this English piece to just sort of skim, but those are, I think, 5 models to think about what are poskim even doing, right? And therefore, what is the role of the non-poskim in the process? Okay? So those are just 5 models to think about. Each of these has to be justified halachically, right? But this is just sort of outlining the types of things that happen in psak, right? And the types of things that have to be thought about, and especially when you want to think, what is your role, right? Whether you want to be a posek or a shoel, or realistically, you'll sometimes be a little bit of both, right? You're always going to know more than someone and less than someone else, right? You'll be in both positions. How do you navigate that, and what factors go in it from a halachic perspective? That's what we'll try to deal with this year in different ways, but we'll take it as you want, okay?